Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com and we're here today live. And are you ready to rumble? I think a lot of you guys are ready to rumble. Sounds like that we've got more representation in the Northern Hemisphere than the Southern Hemisphere. The Southern Hemisphere people seem to just not be that interested in rumbling today, but we do have one individual from Tanzania, so we do have representation from the Southern Hemisphere. But let's see. Oh, man. Philippe with a super chat. Oh, wow. Thank you, Philippe. You're keeping me in premium beans, Philippe. Really do appreciate it. Now that, Philippe, is rumbling. Look at that. You know how to rumble, Philippe. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. We have got some guys coming in. You guys give me a, hey, Joseph, hello. Give me a quick shout out where you're from. Okay, as you know right now, my abode at this instant is West Texas, the Independent Republic of Free Thinking West Texas. That's where I am. Where are you guys? Let me know where you are. Okay, Philippe. Yeah, Philippe is the king of the rumble. What kind of tea do you drink? I drink pure tea, like it's Puehr. It comes from China, and there's these tea plants that have been there for like 500 years, and it's like generation after generation, and they make these little bricks of tea, and it's really quite good tea. So you ask, that's what I do. Hey, we've got someone else from the Republic of Texas here. How about you guys from Texas? Who's ready to secede? Anybody else from Texas ready to secede? Because I'm ready to secede. All right. Time to go, guys, in Texas. Let me know. Republic of Texas will once again raise its head among the nations. That's what Sam Houston said once. Okay, if you guys are ready to secede, let me know. McKeel Garvin is DFW, Texas. Okay, Austria, Motown, Algeria, Eastern Washington, Germany, Minnesota. Bricks of tea used to be a form of money. You know, really, they are an excellent form of money. I mean, you could see how it would work. Let me see. I'm trying to see where my tea brick is, guys. You distract me by telling to use tea as money, and so you get me distracted. But it kind of comes in very hard bricks. Okay, can you see that brick? And it came like this big. And what's the great thing about using tea as money? Has a long shelf life. Okay, it's kind of a compact source of wealth, right? You know, a brick of tea like this big is $20, so it's pretty, you know, condensed money source. And then if somebody doesn't want to take it, you can just drink it. So you could see how tea could be used as money, right? You could see how tea could be used as money. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. We've got a lot of people. Never saw that kind of tea before. Yeah, it's called pure tea. Comes in bricks. You got to kind of get a knife and pry some off, and then it's really quite a delicious thing. Okay, so we've got some people from India, from the Netherlands. Let's see. Oh my, David. David is rumbling with us too. Okay. Hey, thanks, David. Yeah, the new grandbaby. That was really something special. So I'm very, very pleased to be a new grandpa. I have a granddaughter, Gabriella, who's 4 years old, and I have a new grandson named Paul McWhorter. Yes, there is another one of me out there, so we got to get him trained up because I'm going to need someone to replace me one of these days. Okay, let's see. Pakistan, the Netherlands, Georgia. Enver, is that Georgia the state or Georgia the country? Because there's the state of Georgia, and then there's also the country of Georgia. Okay, Bangalore, India, UK. We've got San Diego. All right, thanks, Perio, for the kind words. Congratulations. Hey. Okay, let's see. Can you do a talk in my college? If it is hard to make a trip around the world to do a college talk, I will tell you that right now. Okay, yeah, there is another Paul McWhorter out there. Yep, he's a fresh one, freshly minted. I'm the 59-year-old version. There's a new one that's, I think, like 9 days old or something like that right now. Croatia. Yeah, all right, Croatia. How is Mr. Bosco? Mr. Bosco is no longer with me. Mr. Bosco has sought employment elsewhere. And so Mr. Bosco has been replaced by Mr. Pius. And Pius has been with me, about 8 months now. And he's liking it, and things are going well. He's my night guard. And so during the nighttime, Pius is patrolling the perimeter with the ever faithful Indigo and Butch. Now, Indigo's a very social dog, but Butch is kind of a mean dog. He doesn't like people very much. He just keeps to himself, but he patrols the perimeter. So yeah, Butch and Indigo are my 2 guard dogs. All right. Hey, we've got some people from India, Egypt, Portugal, South Africa, Iowa. All right, we've got a good showing here. We have got a good showing. Sri Lanka. Wow, Sri Lanka. Okay, we've got some. We've got pretty good coverage here. So I think that if we all start rumbling at the same time, we're going to be a force to be dealt with. That's going to be for sure. So anyway, what I'm hoping to do is just kind of hang out with you guys today and answer some of your questions and kind of talk to you about the future of the channel. You guys, did you notice that I launched the Python series last Wednesday, and I did it as a premiere, and so I was able to be in the chat room with you as that thing premiered. And then I've got about a year's worth of Python videos all canned up and ready to go. I'm going to make another couple of Python videos today, and then I'll just continue to build those things up. Now, this is what a lot of you guys are very angry about. Let's see. Any thought about a Discord for student Python course is awesome. Okay, guys, I do have a Discord server. I have the Discord server for my Patreons, just to give them a little thank you for the help. And I try to hang out on the Discord server, and that's really where I try to answer questions and do things like that. Can't really answer questions in email, and I know that this sort of makes people angry because, like, I'm a really nice guy and I like being friends with you, and you see me on the YouTube and I'm being nice to you on YouTube, and you think, oh, that's a nice guy, I think I'll email him. But what you got to see is we're coming up on 200,000 subscribers. I think today we're at something like maybe 198,000 subscribers. So we're going to be at 200,000 subscribers right around the corner. And then there's a lot of people that watch the videos that aren't subscribed. And so basically some of the videos I have, I'm getting millions of views on, and there's just one of me. So if you email me, I get so many emails every day, it's hard for me to read them. And I try to read them, but I certainly can't respond to them, because if I tried to respond to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails every day, I would never make another video. So what is the best way to interact with me? Well, I do read every single comment in the comments section on my videos, and then I try to interact with you. Like right now, twice a week, I'll be in the chat room on the Python premieres, and then here I am in a live stream to interact with you. And then those of you guys who are Patreons, you can join and be part of the Discord, and I try to have a little bit more interaction on the Discord. Is it because I think I'm special and because I'm too important to answer you? No. There's just too many of you, and there's too few of me, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is a question and answer, so I'm trying to grab some as they go by. A lesson on processing. Okay, so processing is kind of a visual, it's like a visual program that is a counterpart to the Arduino. So you would kind of have the Arduino data sent to processing. I tried to play around with processing, and I had a lot of trouble with it, and I did not enjoy it very much, and I could never make it do what I wanted. And so what my approach is, we're going to be taking data on the Arduino, we are going to be sending it over to Python, and then we're going to be doing visuals in Visual Python. And so I love Python. I'm teaching you Python. Sort of my future direction in my mind is data being taken in Arduino, and then that data sent to Python, because you guys are going to be experts on Python. Will you teach C and C++? Okay, let me tell you about that. When I first got started in programming, the programming language was Fortran. So I cut my teeth in programming on Fortran, okay? And then after Fortran, there was something called BASIC, and BASIC was a pretty capable language. BASIC didn't mean simple or not capable, but there was Fortran, there was BASIC, then there was Pascal, and so I was learning these new languages as they were coming out. This was like in the 1980s. And then they came out with this thing called C. All right. And I sat down, I thought, okay, I need to learn C. So I started trying to learn C. And I spent one day just trying to write a program that would get input from the keyboard. It was just like, that was the point that I decided that I did not want to be a programmer, and I went into more the solid state physics area of electrical engineering. And I only returned to programming a few years ago as a high school teacher, thinking, wow, I need to go back. And that's kind of when I got into the whole Arduino things and stuff. But from the mid 80s to the 2010, that was like a period where I was not programming at all. Okay, Raspberry Pi Pico on the horizon. That's a good question. Probably the most requested topic that I get is to do something with like an ESP32 and MicroPython and that sort of stuff. But the problem is, I look, and there's all these different ESP32 hardware platforms, and then there's all these different like little special, like there's Python, there's MicroPython, there's CircuitPython, then there's this fork and there's that fork, and I can't find any emerging standard. And so if I start on a board, I don't even know if you can get the same board that I'm using. So I'm not that familiar with the Raspberry Pi Pico. I'm not saying it's ESP32, but it's that type of idea, like a MicroPython idea. That might be one that I would look at, because having the Raspberry Pi stamp on it, maybe that one would become a standard. So at some point, maybe I would look at the Raspberry Pi Pico. I do need to redo my Raspberry Pi tutorials. They're getting a little long in the tooth, and my studio's a lot better, and I've got a lot more equipment and stuff, and so I do need to at some point redo the Raspberry Pi videos, and at some point I do need to redo the Fusion 360 videos, and at some point I do need to redo my Jetson Nano series. The problem with the Jetson Nano, they keep updating that jetpack, and they keep updating OpenCV. They keep updating things so quickly. By the time I get a series of lessons made on the NVIDIA platforms, things have changed, and so I haven't really figured out yet how to. Manage making good, solid educational series when things are changing so quickly. Let's see. Yeah, I am, Philippe, I am trying to teach the fundamentals, and so it's sort of like I've made some mistakes along the way. Like, I made a series of lessons on the BeagleBone Black, and nobody ever used the BeagleBone Black, and that was just sort of like a flop. And so if I'm going to invest in a platform, I've got to make sure that it's worth the time, that actually people are benefiting from it. So I try to kind of pick and choose very carefully, and it seems like once a week I've got somebody wanting to send me a new platform. It seems like once a week there's a new single board computer, and there's way more single board computers out there than there is the real user base and infrastructure for them. And so we've got to kind of figure out what the emerging standard is going to be and get on and do something like that. Okay, let's see. CJT asked me my question about homeschooling. Okay, so This is where you can ask me anything, and I will answer it, and it can be on any topic, and I will answer it. And the question came up of homeschooling, and I am an enormous fan of homeschooling, and I think it's all advantages, and there's no disadvantages. And this idea, oh, you've got kids that are going to be afraid to come out of your basement, you're overprotecting them. No, you're not overprotecting them. You're equipping them. You're focusing on equipping them to go out into the world. And, we homeschooled our daughter from K through 12, and she started college. I think she was 15 years old when she started college. And she was a tiny little girl, or she is a tiny little girl. And, her mom would drive her to college, and she would get out of the car with her little brown bag, and she would go into college. Well, she was going into nursing, okay? And so one of the classes that's a weed out class in nursing is anatomy and physiology. And the coaches, the people who wanted to be coaches, the athletic majors, they had to take anatomy and physiology. And, those were these huge football players. And so my little daughter was in the class with all these enormous football players. Well, she was the only one that understood things. And so as she left class, you would see her coming out of the building in college. And there would be like 15 of these enormous football players following her, trying to get her to explain it, because she understood it, and she could explain anatomy and physiology better than the teacher could. And so she'd sit down there under the tree, and she would teach all these, all these coaching majors how to think about the anatomy and physiology, and she got a lot of them through the class. She finished number 1 in her class in nursing school. She passed the NFLEX, the board certification, on the first try. And then after passing that, she put on a backpack, got on an airplane, and went to Africa. Now, that does not sound like somebody who is afraid to take on the world. Okay, so this idea that if you homeschool, that the kids are going to be overprotected and socially awkward, just not true. Okay, I am an extremely, extremely big fan of homeschooling. Now, what is the downside? Is parents, you have to make sacrifices. So what was the sacrifice? My wife did not work. She stayed home and homeschooled, and then I was very actively involved in the homeschooling. So it's sort of like you make your children a priority and you educate them instead of just handing them off to the public school system. Now, in the United States, the public school system is broken. I'm a public school teacher, and I appreciate where I'm working, but I'm just saying public schools in the United States are broken. I would not send my kids there. Okay, now let's see how many people I've made mad there with that little rant. I told you could ask me anything, and when you do, if you ask me, expect me to answer it. Okay, let's see. Sunil, welcome. Arduino uses C language. Okay. Let's see. How did you get into EE? How did you get inspired to start your career? Okay. Why did I do EE? I grew up in West Texas in this little town that I live in now, and I was just clueless. I was just a clueless kid in high school, and I was good in math, and someone said, hey, if you're good in math, you can make a lot of money as an engineer. I said, okay, I'll be an engineer. So that's how I got into it. But then once I got into it, I really, really loved it. Okay, I really, really loved it. And so I just kind of stumbled into engineering because somebody just said that you could make money at it if you were good in math. But it actually turned out to be something really, really good. Okay, Lolita is following the Jetson Nano tutorials on the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, you can get so far in artificial intelligence on the Raspberry Pi, but you're going to get to the day that you will need to actually get a Jetson Nano. Okay, Philippe is agreeing that the public schools are broken, and it's kind of a sad thing. It's really a sad thing, but they really are broken. And so education, is necessary for freedom. And so I'm just concerned that we're ending up with a generation of kids that are not educated. I, the other day, just asked my students, you guys in the United States should appreciate this. Can anybody name 2 generals from the Civil War? Okay, the American Civil War. Not one student could tell me 2 generals from the Civil War. A lot of people guess Cornwallis. Okay, so it's just like, we're really failing our kids by not teaching history, right? Because part of being educated is understanding history. So that's kind of scary. What is the highest math you know? I took, oh man, let's see. I took so much math. I took like, let's say 4 years of college, 8 semesters. I took 8 semesters of calculus through differential equations and linear. I can't even name all the math. I took a whole lot of math. And math is one of the things that's not being taught in the public school. And one of the problems with math not being taught, oh man, RJ. Hey, we got a super chat here. RJ says, best of luck in Africa. Please keep the great content coming. Yeah, that is the plan, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a minute. But guys, in the public school, math is not being taught. What is being taught is how to use a calculator to get past the what do you call like the standardized tests that students have to take. They teach you how to use a calculator so you can get past those tests, but math is not being taught in most public schools. And it's really sad because, man, if you can do math, that's what they will pay you the big bucks. The guys that make the big bucks are the guys that know how to do math. And I'm afraid that math is not being taught in the public schools these days. Where did you learn all these things? I'm a lifelong learner, man. I just learn things. I love all this computer stuff. I love hydroponics. I love aquaponics. I love gardening. I'm just a guy. I don't have a TV in my house. I don't have cable TV. I don't have Netflix. I spend my time doing. And the only thing that I watch is something that will give me a new skill. So like I like to woodwork. I like to do machining. I like to build things, make things, fix things, grow things, cook things. You see, I like to do things. And so I don't sit around and I don't watch things. How did your school deal with the pandemic, and how did you adapt your courses? Okay, it's been hard. I mean, it has really been hard. And so, I don't want to get sick. Like I've got like robust health, but right now, as I'm making this transition in my life to Africa, my family is staying with my mom who's 87. So I do not want to take that vile, pox back to my mom. And so I really am super careful. And there's a lot of it going around in the schools, and you can imagine schools are kind of a hard place to avoid it. And so what I've adapted in my classroom, I don't touch anything. Okay, I come into the building and I come to my desk, and I do that without touching anything. And then in my interactions with students, I don't touch things, okay? So I give the assignments electronically. They work them out on paper. They take a picture of their work, and then they turn it in electronically. Then I grade it and I send it back to them. So I don't touch anything and hand to them, and they don't touch anything and hand to me. So we are not touching things. Okay, and then I do things in this room to keep it sterilized. There's some equipment they use in hospitals to sterilize hospital rooms. I have that equipment in here, so I'm constantly sterilizing and keeping things really clean, and then maintaining distance. And so far, while there is illness that is spreading around, I've been able to not get it just by being really careful. And so kind of like the question is, with this whole pandemic thing, is how do we exit lockdown? Because when the whole thing got started, what was it, like March a year ago, something like that, and then we locked down. And then when we locked down, we flattened the curve. But then when we reduced the lockdown, then we just sort of pick up where we left off. And so I think we have to just really rationally think about what does life look like moving forward, because at some point you can't just have everybody spend the rest of their life in lockdown. And so at some point, I think we got to think in terms, and we're just chatting. I'm not giving advice, or, they get really concerned about this type of conversation. But I think at some point we got to think about protecting the elderly, protecting the vulnerable, and the healthy have to just kind of get back to life. But we're just chatting here. I'm not like giving you some sort of medical advice or something like that. Let's see. Could you do a high school math class that would actually help us? Yeah, I'd love to do that at some point. I'd love to teach you Algebra 1, Algebra 2, pre-calculus, and calculus, but do it in the context of real-world problems where we're trying to make a project, but in order to do that project, we have to do this math, or we have to do that math, or we have to do this other math, that math for a purpose. But the problem with math in high school is many high school teachers don't understand math. They're just showing steps, and students are trying to copy those steps. And so students become very frustrated because they don't understand it. They're just mimicking steps, and they don't see any purpose for it. Well, if we're trying to get our LED to do cool color things, and the only way we can do that is if we understand that math, then it is math for a purpose, if that makes sense. Okay. Teaching on the Nile series, Philippe, I think that would be a great idea. And I think that, hopefully I will have more time for that. Hey, I got good news for you. All right. So this was something that you can imagine that if you live in the jungle in Africa, it's kind of hard to get a good studio put together. And in particular, it's hard to get a fast computer. I, here in the United States, bought a blazingly fast. Oh, man, Adam. Hey, we got a super chat there. Adam Donkey Man, thanks, man. You guys are really helping me out, and I do need the help now. So this is kind of like the good news that I need a studio in Africa, and you can't just go buy it. It's not a matter of just going down to your local Best Buy and getting a fast computer. You can get a computer, but it tends to be very, very low end, like what would be equivalent to maybe a $200 laptop here, and that simply would not be able to run my studio. So while I was here, I bought a blindingly fast, like a super duper double deluxe, super unbelievable gaming machine. And then the problem is, how do you get it over there? Well, I actually got that silly thing shipped over there. It took about a month to get there, but it is now at location. And so that is really good news. You guys guess, how much do you think it costs me to ship my computer from West Texas to the jungle in Africa? What do you think the shipping cost was on this little endeavor that I just did? Looking for guesses. How much did I have to pay on shipping? Looking for guesses. I know there's a little bit. $600, okay. $2,000, $200, $5,000, $300. Okay, hey, those are pretty good guesses. Cost $1,200 to ship that thing over there. But I am very happy, and I feel like that. I feel good that it got there, and I'm not going to worry about the price. But you guys that are helping me out with Super Chat, that's helping me, help get my studio put together over there, because it's not quite as easy as you might think. But the good news is the computer is over there. Now what I got to do is I got to see if it'll turn on. And so I'm getting somebody. I didn't ship a monitor because shipping. Oh, wow. Thank you, Peter. That was very good. You and I grew up without calculators. I never had one till university. Yeah, we don't need no stinking calculators, right? I don't need no stinking calculator. I know how to do the math. Okay, so the computer is over there in Africa on my location, and now I just got to see if it works. All right, so I got to get a monitor, which you can buy locally, and then, hey, wow, Gregory, look at that. I'm studying cell molecular biology and use what I learned in your lessons in an undergrad research. Hey, that is really good. CRISPR. You'd have to tell us more about that. I know a little bit about it, but I would like to learn more about it. I actually had a biotech company at one point where we were making ophthalmic implants, eye implants for things like glaucoma. So I've had a little work in the bio area. So anyway, my computer's over there. I got to buy a monitor I got to have somebody buy a monitor and then a mouse. The keyboard was in the box, but I want to make sure that that computer boots before I go over there, because we would be kind of shut down if I get over there and don't have a computer powerful enough to run my studio. Now, hey, wow, the Drunk Ninja. Look at you guys are really helping me out today. You guys are really helping me out, and it is appreciated. But like the camera, the microphone, and the HDMI capture devices, I plan on just taking over in my carry-on. And so if I have the camera and I have the computer and the capture devices and the microphone, pretty much I think everything else I can get working. And so that's what my goal is to have a working studio over there. Okay, so let's see. What else have we got here? I recently started with your Arduino. All right, good. I wanted to thank you. Okay, well, very good, Joseph. I appreciate that. Yes, I am moving to Africa, in the process of doing that. Having a few things that I am trying to wrap up here, trying to wrap up a few things here in West Texas, and then I will be heading over there. Let's see, another question on homeschooling. How do you design the curriculum? What topics do you think that are, okay, you guys, the question on homeschooling, sorry, I don't want to just dwell on this, but it's really, really simple, okay? My daughter never stepped into a high school. She never got a high school diploma. She didn't go out and do the GED or anything like that. To get into college, this is a little something. You don't have to have a high school diploma to get into college. To get into college, all you have to do is do well on the ACT. And so you could be worried about educating your child more about, giving them a broad educational experience where they're learning real things, real world things, and then in class what you're really focusing is on equipping them for the ACT. And a kid can be 14, 15 years old and absolutely ace the ACT. And then colleges actually recruit homeschool children because they know they're really good kids. And so it's not like you got to do all this nonsense that's in the public schools. All you got to do is prep them for the ACT, and then more importantly, prep them for the world, where you're teaching them more the classics and not all this silly nonsense, if that makes sense. Okay, what tips would you give to a high school student who wants to major in engineering? That question, I have a whole series on that. It's called How to Be a Successful Engineer. It is a playlist on my channel. Make sure that you guys go and take a look at that. Okay, so back to my studio. So this is what I've done. You see, and this is what some of you guys are mad at me about. I have made a year's worth of Python videos, and I am releasing one a week on Wednesday, and it's released as a premiere, and I will be in there with you, and I will be interacting in the chat box during the premiere. And so you have 1 year that I am going to be interacting with you on a regular basis. Then also on Saturdays, I have this live stream. Now, when I go to Africa, if my studio is not quite up completely functioning, I might just do the live stream with a webcam, right? So you might have a little bit cruder audio visual quality right when I get over there, but you'll still be getting the Wednesday video. You'll still be getting the live chat on Saturday, a time for us to interact. But this is what you guys are mad at me about. You see that I post a video and it's not going to release for a year. It's going to premiere a year. It's like everybody's saying, I want it all, and I want it all right now. Release the videos, release the videos. And you're mad because I'm spacing them out. Well, if I released a year's worth of videos to you and then I disappear because I'm moving, then that's how channels die. Channels die when you're not regularly releasing new material and regularly interacting with your community, with your subscriber base. So what I am doing is I am going to be interacting with you at least twice a week for the next year. Now, what would I like to do? If I get to Africa and my computer is working and I get the other things over there, like my camera doesn't get stolen on the way over there and things like that, and I get my studio up and going, then I'd like to make more videos. Well, maybe I could then start releasing those Python series more frequently, or I could continue to release them once a week and do a different series, and so there'll be a lot more interaction. But what is my strategy? My strategy right now is to make this move to the jungle without you guys, without me disappearing, keeping the channel active and interacting with you guys over this period of time. But I am getting more optimistic that I will be able to get my studio up and running over there. And then you guys should get even more content. You should get even more videos. Maybe I could do that Math That Matters series. Maybe I could go in and I could redo those Raspberry Pi to have a lot more time to do that. Okay, but you guys have got to be patient. But a lot of you are really mad that I'm not just releasing all the Python at the same time. You know what? The other thing that happens if I release all the Python at the same time, you guys are going to binge watch, and you're going to just be sitting doing what I'm doing. You're not going to be really thinking about it and working on it. I think it's good for me to give you an assignment and you go off and work on it and not just immediately go to the next video and watch me do it. You need to be working and really learning this stuff. And I think me spacing these things out once a week is kind of neat. Is it necessary to know coding if you want to major in engineering? Yeah. Like in electrical engineering, even though that's not computer science, you do need to know coding. You don't have to be like the world's greatest coder, but programming is a tool. It's an engineering tool, and it's something that you are going to need to know. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, we got some people saying about the math series would be good. Okay, let's see. Will you be teaching us to make web pages in Python? Probably not. And I've got some websites, but they're really annoying to me. And it just seems like they keep changing so much on stuff. And so I had a website once that it was really popular. I think I got 50,000 to 100,000 visitors a day on that website. But the problem is things were changing so quickly. I found myself spending all my time trying to maintain the site with new standards and not able to generate new content. So I really kind of ended up do I really want to spend my life as a webmaster? No, I probably don't. I am not going to be able to teach C++ because I don't know it and I am not very interested in it. Is your snail mail still available? Yes, right now I am in El Dorado, Texas 496. Okay, that will be true for the next month or so, but I am looking in the next couple of months to not be here anymore. Can I ask you about the summary of your career when you worked in nanotechnology, but your degree was... No, my degree was, I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Texas. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering from Stanford with a specialty in solid state physics. So I was very much an electrical engineer, not a math person, but I was never like a hacker or a coder. I was much more in the physics, and then physics is a lot of math. And at the very core level of how an integrated circuit works, it is really physics. ROS is hard to learn. Yeah. And when I tried ROS, it broke my heart. And then I get started on ROS and they change it. And so I just don't quite have the energy to do ROS just at this moment. How long did it take you to get a good subscriber base? Man, it takes a long time. And if you want to do YouTube, it's got to be because you love the topic. You're not going to just do it you're not going to be the next YouTube millionaire. It's just it takes a long time, and you need to be a subject matter expert. You need to love the topic, and you need to know how to teach. And if you can do those three things, you can build a successful channel. But if you think the world wants to hear your opinion, or you're this cool dude and you're going to talk about your haircut, or you're going to make silly cat videos, there's just too many of those. You're never going to compete. You have to have a niche expertise. It's got to be something people care about. It's got to be something you love, and you're doing it for years and years because you you love it, and then at some point you might make money on it. I really want to do something on math. That's something I really want to do. Mechanical engineering, no, man. It's just like, if you get a degree in electrical engineering, you can get a job anywhere. Like, there are probably more electrical engineers at SpaceX than aeronautical engineers. Electrical engineering was my path to get to work on the space shuttle at NASA. That's how I got a seat in the control room at NASA for one of the launches. That's how I got a seat that I got to go on a Triton submarine. That was my seat that I got to go into all these cool places, was electrical engineering. So every single cool high-tech thing in the world, they have electrical engineers. To where the mechanical engineers, like, you might think, oh, I like race cars, and if you're a mechanical engineer, you don't get to design cool cars. They have one little nut that holds the brake mechanism on, and you're the guy that designs that nut. And so if your guys are mechanical engineers, I'm not trying to put you down, or I'm not trying to demean you. I'm just saying, as I went through my career, the really cool, exciting jobs tended to be the electrical engineering jobs, not the mechanical engineering jobs. Data analysis for beginners, I guess I would like to maybe teach something in, like Matplotlib, about how to deal with data sets. I can do that at some point. Yes, I did not work for NASA. I worked on NASA projects, and part of that was I got to go to the launches and be in the control room. I got to go up on the launch pad and install some stuff there. So I got to see all the cool stuff at NASA for several years because I was an electrical engineer. What is better, mechatronics or communication? Not too big on communication myself. I would probably pick mechatronics between those two. Let's see. All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the kind words. The majority of data analysis is about 95% filtering the noise. I think you're really right there. I think you're really right. So, you guys, part of it is you want to do what you love. And if you do what you love, you're going to really enjoy it. But then there's kind of like two things. You need to do what you love, and you need to do something that people really need. And you got to kind of do both of those things. And like a lot of times I'll see someone like, oh, I love cooking. I'm going to be a pastry chef. Right? A pastry chef is like a really good hobby, but it's not necessarily a really good way to make a living. So pick something that you don't hate. All right. Don't pick something you hate just for a job, but make sure you're going to pick something that people will actually pay you for. Let's see. In the future, will there be a machine learning course? Yeah, I do intend to do that. It's just right now I don't have the time to do that. Would you give me what tips would you give me if I want to get into MIT or Stanford? Okay, you've got to ace that ACT. Man, you need to get, like, if you really want to get in one of those schools, you need to kind of get like a 35 on the ACT. And how do you get a 35 on the ACT? Is by practicing, and number two, knowing how to do math. And if you want to get that perfect score in math on the ACT, you've got to kind of know how to recognize the shortcuts. Like if you're doing trigonometry, you need to recognize that 30, 60, 90 triangle. You got to recognize that 3, 4, 5 triangle. You've got to take something that would take 2 minutes to work it out and recognize the shortcut and get that problem in 5 or 10 seconds. I will say that pretty much all of my math students at least get in the top 10% in the nation on the ACT. And every year I'll have a couple that like get in the 99 percentile on the ACT in math. And so you can do it. You can really do it, but you've got to know the math. You can't be Mr. Calculator. You've got to know the math. And if you know the math, you'll recognize the shortcuts and you'll be able to, you can get a perfect score on the math. Now, the other hard thing about the ACT, acing it, is let's just talk about the ACT. All right, that's a good subject. How do you ace the ACT? Number one, know the math. When you're doing the math, recognize the shortcuts, and then understand that the science section is really just reading a graph. And so in the science section, they'll give you 3 paragraphs of text, and then they'll ask you a question, and you'll look at the graph. Most of the time, you don't need to read those 3 paragraphs. Read the question and then see which one of the 3 graphs would answer it. And you don't even have to know what the words mean. You just need to read off that graph. And so you can ace the science if you just practice thinking in terms of, don't worry if you don't understand what it's talking about. Just look at the data. Is the data trending up? Is the data trending down? Is it trending up at an accelerating rate, at a decelerating rate, comparing this to this? And if you just can read graphs, you can do the science. So we got science, we got math. The hard part on the ACT is the reading and the English part, because that is not really anything other than how quickly you can read. And the problem with it is, if you really read those passages on the ACT and then go over and carefully answer the questions, you'll get through about half the questions. If you just speed skim through it and then look at the questions, you went so fast you sort of skimmed over it. And so it's this strange strategy of how to read quickly but yet still kind of skim. And so I think I would try things like read the first paragraph, read the last paragraph, and then read the first and last sentence of the paragraphs in between, then hop over and then try to answer the questions. But I always thought it was crazy that the ACT, a lot of your score is just how fast you can read. And I never viewed that as a very useful skill as a guy that can read fast. So anyway, that was my thoughts on the ACT. Let's see what else we have. What do you think about to pick an undergraduate career in electronics? Yeah, I think electronics and electrical engineering are kind of like the coolest thing that you can go into. Thunderbird, how active in ham radio are you? Okay, I have my extra license, and there was a period of years that I would take all my students and get them to extra. I had a lot of students as freshmen in high school were getting their extra license. And, ham guys are some of the nicest guys in the world. But the problem is there's these gripey old ham Nazis, and they're like really mean. And so my students would get their extra, they would talk on the radio, and they'd start having these guys be really mean to them. And it doesn't matter if 99 guys are nice, if you have one gripey old ham Nazi curmudgeon come down on a kid hard, he's just not going to go into the topic. He's not going to go into the field. And so the ham business is dying. The ham hobby is dying, and it's dying because of these gripey old ham Nazis. Okay, and even though most ham guys are really nice, it's those old gripey ones that I think is just really killing that whole field. Okay, Thunderbird, let's see. So I'm currently about to finish your tutorials, and I wanted to ask if you know what I can build a clear path to learn electrical engineering on my own. Okay, the thing is, I try to teach you as much as I can on this channel, but at some point you got to get your credentials, and you can go to a university and get an EE degree, and if you've taken my classes, it'll be a lot easier for you. But you got to get that credential. And if that's too much, go to a technical vocational school and get an instrumentation degree or an electronics technician degree, and you can do that like in 18 months. And there are some really, really cool jobs out there. Any tips for the SAT? I think the SAT is about the same as the ACT. It's just practice, practice, practice. Get those practice tests, know your math, and practice up, and you too can do well on that. Between electronics and robotics, I would still kind of get into electronics. I think some of these things like artificial intelligence at the edge, the kind of like the Jetson Nano stuff with the artificial intelligence, I think that's like a huge future, and then that is very tightly coupled with robotics. And so I think robotics and artificial intelligence are going to be really great careers for a long time. Let's see, what else have we got here? how hard is it to get into MIT? It's really hard to get into MIT. It really is. And I got into Stanford by acing the ACT. Okay, I would say ace the ACT or SAT. And then the second thing is you need a kind of like that community service part of things that really distinguishes you. Okay, that really distinguishes you from everybody else, because usually on college applications, your community involvement sections tend to be kind of lame. And so as you're looking at college applications, you know, whoever's looking at them, they got thousands of them to read, and they're just reading blah, 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 blah. It's like they all sound the same. Okay, they all sound the same. You got to have something punchy that distinguishes you from everyone else. And one way to do that is in that kind of community service part of your application. So ace the ACT and then do something really, really cool in the community service thing. Like I had this one student, and what he did was he bought a camera, and then he shipped the camera to Africa, and then there was an orphanage that had all of these little African orphans, children, you know, your typical thing, starving children that have been brought into an orphanage. And then one of the kids there was really good with the camera, and so that child, that little African child, went around in his orphanage and he took pictures of his life, of the other children in the orphanage, of his little school. This was his, you know, he just took all these beautiful pictures of his life as an orphan. And then those were emailed back to my student, and then my student built this website. And then on that website, you could order a card. So it would be one of the pictures that Peter had taken of his little life. And then you could order a greeting card with the picture that was taken, the photograph that was taken by this orphan. And it was done through like a United States printing service. And so you just click buy now, you buy the card, and then the card showed up in your mailbox a few days later. And then the profits from selling those cards that the orphan had taken were used to buy vitamins, and then those vitamins were shipped to the orphanage. And so this little kid, this little African orphan, because he could take good pictures, then all the children in his orphanage had vitamins. They had, you know, a lot of times in these orphanages, you don't get very balanced diet. It's a lot of corn mush. You get kind of like corn mush and cabbage is typically what they eat. And so to round out their nutrition, then that whole orphanage had vitamins because little Peter was taking pictures, and then my student was marketing those pictures with 100% of the money going back to Africa. That's really clever. And that is a community service thing. It really distinguished my student apart from the other students. And so he got into the school that he wanted to get into. Ace the ACT had a really clever community service project. Okay, can you make a video on how to run motors on the Jetson Nano? Okay. What you've got to see is the GPIO pins on the Jetson Nano. The GPIO pins on the Jetson Nano are very, very wimpy. They don't have any drive capability, and so you're going to have to like go from that to something that could then drive motors. And so you would probably need one of those motor drivers and something with the right voltage to hook to the Jetson Nano. But that is something that I have not done yet. Okay, so asking for a SPICE tutorial. Man, I'm just not interested in teaching a canned program like SPICE. I would be much more interested in teaching you how to do circuit analysis. But so much times the SPICE, you get to where you don't even understand what you're doing. You're just plugging components in. You're looking at your circuit diagram. You're plugging those things into SPICE, and then SPICE returns to you the circuit analysis. That is not very much interesting to me. Okay, got a question. What's my thoughts on a bachelor in biomedical engineering? Yes, I think biomedical engineering has a great future. Like I say, I had a biotech company, a Silicon Valley biotech company, and I think that is a cool thing. I think that is pretty neat. Okay, guys, I like to just every once in a while have a question and answer session with you, and I kind of feel like this was sort of like random all over the place, but I just tried to grab some questions from you and then answer them, and I just enjoy this ability to interact with you guys on a little bit more informal level. Most of the time on our live streams, I'm going to have topics and try to talk about those topics and then answer your questions on those topics. But today I just thought, let's just open it up to any questions at all. And so that's kind of what we tried to do today. So just as I wrap this thing up, what I'll be saying is I'll be still here in Texas for a little while. Then when I leave, I've got plenty of material in the can, so you'll be getting fresh new Python lessons, and you'll be hearing from me and interacting with me. And then what my goal will be, as quickly as I possibly can to get a good studio set up at my remote jungle bungalow and get things set up there, and then fully back online with you guys. One of the issues that I will face is not just the studio, but getting a suitable internet connection where I can actually upload videos. Maybe encouraging is what's this Elon Musk thing with all the satellites up there? What is that called? The Elon Musk, all the satellites to give you high-speed internet anywhere in the world. What is that called? What is that? Starlink, Philippe. Hey, thanks, Philippe. Starlink. I got here in Texas, I got a note from Starlink saying that I could go ahead and order the system and that the system would be brought online like in the coming month or months. And so I thought that was encouraging. What I really hope is in Africa. Whoa, Yarden. Hey, shalom for Israel. Hey, I've never been to Israel, but that is on my list of places I want to go. And I've wanted to go there my whole life, but I've never gotten there. Your Arduino tutorials boosted my curiosity and motivation. Hey, that's great. Hey, really appreciate it, Yarden. Yeah, it was like when I was young, I wanted to go to Israel, but I didn't have the money. Then when I had a high-paying electrical engineering job, I had the money, but I didn't have the time. And so it's like I'm afraid it's going to be okay. I've got the money and I've got the time, but I'm too old. So it's on the list. And really, Israel's not that far from Africa. So when I'm going over there, I hope to make a little jaunt to the Holy Lands. And so that's what I do indeed hope to do. So what I'm hoping, though, is I'm hoping that I can get a Starlink in Africa, because, man, if I can get a Starlink connection in Africa, like maybe like in 6 months or something like that, then we could just really go to town with these videos. But right now, there are places in Africa that have reasonable connections, and so what I might have to do is make a lot of videos, then go into some city or metropolitan area and get a good connection and just upload everything then, and then paste them out as premieres, and so something like that. But I do believe that high-speed internet is coming to everyone on the face of the earth, and so I think that will be coming along pretty quickly. Okay, guys, I apologize that this was kind of like random, scatterbrained all over the place, but I do like to just sometimes open it up for questions. And next week we'll get back to try to have a more, oh, wow, Alice Wang, thank you. Just hope you are healthy. I am healthy. I will be safe in Africa. You know, guys, I have a really, I don't want to be presumptuous, but I just don't get sick. I just don't get sick, right? If I think in the last 40 years, maybe I've been to the doctor twice in 40 years. I stay healthy. I eat healthy. I have a healthy lifestyle, and I just don't get sick. And so I have been able to maintain my health in Africa. Let's see. Alice, I just don't do consultation because it's sort of like, it's not like I'm trying to make money. What I want to do is I want my life to matter. So how can I do that? I can just teach people. I can try to equip people. I can try to give skills to people. But if I take my time and build a video and put it on YouTube, then I can benefit people all over the world, to where if I take payment to work on a specific problem for a specific person, it's like, okay, I made some money, but am I really helping make that world a better place. And so that's why at this point I don't really do the Paul the bodybuilder. I'm not a bodybuilder. If you're talking to me, I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm just a real healthy guy. And that comes from eating good, healthy food. Okay, let's see. Yeah, one more question. What about the trades? Man, the trades are where it's at. And if I had a young person, if you're going to college, you better be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And if you're not doing one of those three things, you'd be much better off being a plumber, an electrician, or a diesel mechanic, or an instrumentation specialist. So I think we got to rethink things. So many of you guys are going to a 4-year university, coming out of the university with $250,000 in debt and having a skill that someone will pay you minimum wage for. And so don't go to a 4-year university unless you are getting a real skill, And if you're not going to do that, man, plumber, electrician, diesel mechanic, wind turbine technologist, those trades and those skills, I think are the future. I really do think those are the future. Okay, guys, I do plan on this coming Wednesday, we are going to have another Python lesson that's going to be released, and then next Saturday I plan on having a live stream. Try to have a little bit more of a theme and a topic next week for you guys, and just really appreciate you guys who help me out with the super chats. Appreciate you guys that are helping me out over at Patreon, and then I will look forward to staying in contact with you guys. So again, Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.